Hey guys, welcome to EduKaji. If you're first time here, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Walter and I'm a scientist as well as a chemistry tutor for the past 8 years.
All right, so this is the Terengganu past trial paper for year 2021. For this session, we'll be looking into the paper 1 first before we move on to paper 2. So without further ado, let's take a look at the first question. All right, so the first question here asks, what is the type of particles and the state of matter of acetamide at room conditions? So acetamide is actually supposedly a type of molecule, okay? There's a covalent molecule. So therefore, it must be referred to as a molecule, okay? And because acetamide is supposed to be a solid, so therefore the answer is C. For number 2, diagram 1 shows the atomic symbol of element X. X has a nucleon number of 19 and the proton number of 9. So it is asking you which of the following represents 19. So the answer here will be nucleon number. Now, alternatively, 19 can also mean that it is actually relative atomic mass, okay? So in alternative to that, if in exam you don't see the word nucleon number, it could also mean the relative atomic mass. So that could be another answer that you may look out for in case, just in case, right? Then for number 3, the following statement is about the arrangement of the elements in the periodic table of elements. So now we have elements classified according to certain groups such as gases, non-metals, metals, and metal oxide. Which of the following scientists made the above statement? So according to these different types of substances, like gases, non-metals, metals, and metal oxides, that is actually based on their properties. And the person who actually proposed this is actually Antoine Lavoisier. So therefore, Antoine is actually the answer, C. Yeah? For number 4, which of the following is correct about covalent bonds? Let's look at A, a bond form involving all electrons in an atom. No, not all electrons in the atom, because we're not going to talk about any other electrons besides valence electrons. So during chemical reactions, atoms of different elements only can react when with their valence electrons, okay? The one that's inside near to the nucleus does not actually react with any other atoms at all. So A is technically wrong. B, covalent bond is a type of chemical bond. Yes, indeed, it is a type of chemical bond. So this is actually correct. And then the next one, C, bond formed because atom wants to release electrons. Not necessarily. They don't actually release or accept. We say that in a covalent bond, they actually want to share instead. All right, share lah. So they want to share electrons so that both of them can achieve either duplet or octet. So C is also wrong. And then D, bond form and transfer or share of electrons. There's no transfer or share. It's basically just share. So we cannot just say, transfer or share. It must definitely be sharing of electrons for sure. So therefore, D is also not so accurate. So the most accurate answer here should be B. Covalent bond is a type of chemical bond. Number 5, what is the meaning of the rate of reaction? So the rate of reaction is actually the measurement of how fast the reaction can happen. But it depends on whether you are talking about the formation of products or you're talking about the decrement or the reduction of the particular quantity of reactants, okay? So the best answer for number 5 here, it should be donkey, all right, which is the increase in quantity of product against time, okay? Now, first one, A is wrong because the reactant will definitely drop in its amount. So we can't say that it has an increase in quantity. So this is actually wrong. And then you can see here, decrease in quantity of products. Wrong also because we know that as time goes by, product will increase in number, not decrease. And the last one, decrease in quantity of product against time. No, it is not. Okay, again, the quantity of product should be increasing while the amount of reactant should be decreasing. So therefore, number 5 here is donkey. For number 6, alloy X is made by mixing iron with carbon, chromium, and nickel. What is X? So this is actually supposedly alloying. So the alloy that consists of carbon, chromium, and nickel mixed together with iron is supposed to be technically stainless steel. So therefore, the answer is D. Not steel only, yeah? Because you got chromium and nickel inside. Therefore, you actually add in, it becomes stainless steel, plus there's carbon also. So whenever you see this iron mixed with carbon, chromium, and nickel, we're referring to stainless steel. 7, which of the following is a reducing agent? So a reducing agent is normally a very good substance to be oxidized, okay? So a particular substance can oxidize very easily, can tend to become the reducing agent. Now, obviously, it cannot be boiled because you see here, right? Potassium manganate 7 will always be a oxidizing agent, right? For number 7 over here, the answer is supposed to be potassium iodide. And it's not just potassium iodide, like it's actually supposed to be iodide ion. So the two iodide ions, what happens is that they will technically release the electrons to form iodine molecules. So because of this tendency, right, when they want to release out the electrons more easily, then we said that this one is technically oxidized. So if iodide can be oxidized easily, then it will be a very good reducing agent, right? The substance that's oxidized will be the reducing agent. So that's the easiest way to remember lah. Okay, well, the rest of it is not true. Number 8, which of the following are members of esters? So esters are sweet-smelling compounds, usually used as fragrances or flavoring agents. They are a combination of alcohol and also a carboxylic acid. Okay, so the best answer here will be ethyl methanoate. The word ethyl comes from ethanol, and methanoate comes from methanoic acid. And then the last one will be number 4, methyl penthanoate. The alcohol is methanol, and the carboxylic acid is panthenoic acid. So 2 and 3 is not because they are technically carboxylic acids. So they are not considered as esters. So esters, they have this kind of name like ethyl methanoate or the methyl panthenoate. Those kind of names will resemble what we call as esters. So therefore, the best answer here will be donkey. All right, for number 9, which reaction absorbs heat from the surrounding? So they're referring to an endothermic reaction. When they say absorb heat from the surrounding, then of course the temperature will reduce, and this will be based on your endothermic reaction. And based on this one, right, there's only one endothermic reaction over there. The answer is B. Okay. Whenever you see water is added to ammonium nitrate or ammonium salt, okay, technically, like whenever you see, right, there is actually ammonium salt, such as ammonium nitrate added to water, then for sure it will be an endothermic reaction already. All right, unless you don't see any of them, then of course you must reconsider. But in this case here, the moment you see water and also solid aluminum nitrate, it will be endothermic already. So you'll pick B straight away as an answer. Number 10, diagram 2 shows the molecular structure of a polymer. Okay, what is the name of the polymer diagram? So how do we know what is the polymer? So right now, what happens here is supposedly you have to see where the repetitive unit is. Okay, so some of you will think that, oh, this whole thing is the monomer. Okay, this whole thing is the polymer, but this one unit here is the monomer, not necessarily. Do you notice that there's actually a repetitive pattern between these two? So you can split it half, and you notice that there is this one and this one is the same thing. So actually, right, the monomer is supposed to be either one of those, not the whole set itself. So in this case here, the name of the monomer, you have to draw it out first. So this is called an addition polymer, or the process is called addition polymerization, where there must be a carbon-carbon double bond. So the monomer should look something like this. Okay, so if that's the case, this is supposed to be propene, right? Why? Because it's a 3-carbon alkene. Do you see that? So we are supposed to say that it is propene. So number 10 here is supposed to be C. Most commonly, people make a silly mistake. Students take a careless mistake. Why? Because they think that this whole thing is supposed to be the monomer, right? If you think about it, if this whole thing is a monomer, how does it look like? It'll look something like this. Okay. you have to have like one side of it is a double bond only, which doesn't make sense, isn't it? If you have one side double bond, then where the double bond comes from? Can't have another double bond here, ma. Doesn't make sense, right? Unless you say this is my double bond over here, and then this one's my my CH3, and then for example, then here's my CH3. It looks very weird. So no lah. The idea is very simple, right? The idea is that just look out for any common structure. Okay, inside the polymer, sometimes it can include like 2 monomer, 3 monomer, 4 monomer also can, right? But it's our job is actually to go and look and see what is the repetitive pattern. So we see that this is the repetitive pattern, right? Here, you can see that this side and this side, they are the same. So which means inside this polymer structure, there is actually 2 monomer that is combined together in one picture. So the best answer here will be C. 11, which of the following is a non-physical property of graphene? I think this is actually graphene. I think it is essentially typo there. Okay, so supposedly graphene has a heat insulating property because it is technically a covalent substance, right? Elastic, no, it is graphene is not elastic, but graphene is supposed to be a layer of the graphite. Not graphite itself, but it's a layer of the graphite. So remember that we have graphite. So graphite, the carbon atoms have this hexagonal ring structure. Okay, and then right they have a stack of it. Like in the graphite itself, there's one whole layer. The layer is called the graphene, and then there is also this layers that forms inside the graphite structure where they're held by weak van der Waals forces. Okay, so one layer of it is called graphene, while the whole structure itself is called graphite. So that's how we differentiate graphene from graphite. So in this case over here, graphite being although it is a covalent substance as well, but the idea here is very simple. It is actually a heat insulator. It is not elastic. It is not transparent because you know that graphite itself is already black, and it is not strong and hard also. It's supposed to be very brittle. So A, B, and C is already wrong already. So the last one actually proves to you that it is wait, sorry, they say non-physical property. Sorry, non-physical property. So supposedly it is a non-heat insulator. It is a heat insulator, okay, because it is a covalent substance. So therefore, the answer is donkey lah. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. 12. Diagram 3 shows the structure of the atom. So we have an atom with different number of electron shells, 2 electron shells with different number of electrons. So it has a 4 valence electron. So where's the position of the proton in the structure of the atom? So I'll say the proton is located in the nucleus itself, right? So therefore, the answer say here it will be in the nucleus. So the answer will be A. For 13, the following equation represents the reaction between copper 2 oxide and nitric acid. Okay, so what is the mass of copper 2 nitrate produced when 1.6 grams of copper 2 oxide reacts completely with nitric acid? So what we need to do now is to calculate the number of moles of copper oxide. You got 1.6 grams of copper oxide. So what we need to do now is to calculate the molar mass of copper oxide. So molar mass of CuO, supposedly it is 64 plus 16. So that should give you supposedly 80. So the molar mass of copper oxide is 80 grams. So right now you have to find out number of moles. So number of mole of copper oxide used will be 1.6 divided by 80. So that's how much you get for that. So you get 0.002 mole. Okay, right now they're asking what's the mass of copper nitrate produced. So you see, right, the number of mole of copper oxide and number of mole of copper nitrate is a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, the number of mole of copper oxide is 1-to-1 ratio with copper nitrate. For every 1 mole of copper oxide, we get 1 mole of copper nitrate. Now we don't have 1 mole exactly, we have 0.02 mole. Okay, so we also have 0.02 mole of copper nitrate. So right now, what we do is to calculate the molar mass of copper nitrate to get the mass of copper nitrate. So molar mass of copper nitrate, let's see how much that is. So we have 64 plus 28 plus 96, so 188 in total. Double check that for you. Yep, 188 lah. So the molar mass of copper nitrate is 188 grams per mole. So now to get the number, to get the mass of copper nitrate form, mass of copper nitrate form will be 0.02 mole multiplied by 188 grams. You'll get 3.76 grams. So the answer here will be donkey. You have to calculate the number of moles, compare the ratio, and then find the molar mass of the substance, then multiply the number of mole, you should get the answer already. So the answer here is donkey. 14 again, 4 shows the part of the periodic table elements. Which of the following is a transition element? So transition element is located in the middle block over here, group 3 to 12, supposedly. So the best answer here is actually C. All right, now 15. Which of the following comparison is correct about ionic compounds and covalent compounds? So let's just say over here, does ionic compound have low melting and boiling point while covalent compounds have high melting and boiling point? No. Usually, I would say ionic compounds will have a high melting and boiling point, not lower. B, do not conduct electricity, and then for covalent compounds, conduct electricity. So wrong lah. We know that for sure covalent compounds do not conduct electricity. Okay, ionic compound can conduct electricity in a in a liquid state, or I call it as a molten state, or an aqueous solution. So suppose that's the answer lah. But in this case, this is wrong. So let's let it be. So C, dissolve in water. Most ionic substances can dissolve in water, except for insoluble salts. While the rest of it, like you see, covalent compounds can dissolve in organic solvents like methyl benzene, ethyl acetate, all those can. So C is the best answer here, okay? And again, ionic compounds mostly can dissolve in water, except for insoluble salts. For covalent compounds, they dissolve best in organic solvents. 16, which of the following will produce an insoluble salt? So let's see what's the combination of the salt that's being formed. So between sulfuric acid and zinc, right, you can just write the chemical equation, it's very easy. So the salt that you will produce is supposed to be zinc sulfate and hydrogen gas, sulfuric acid and barium hydroxide. So you get H2SO4 plus BaOH2. You will get BaSO4 plus H2O. Okay, and then hydrochloric acid, so HCl plus CuO. You get CuCl2 plus H2O. And then the last one will be HCl and hydroxide. So HCl plus NaOH. You'll get NaCl plus H2O. Now, among all the salts that you see over here, right, zinc sulfate, barium sulfate, copper chloride, and sodium chloride, there's only one which is insoluble in water. In this case, it will be barium sulfate. So therefore, the answer here will be boy. The following equations represents the reaction between sodium thiosulfate and sulfuric acid. So you'll be able to produce a sulfur precipitate. This is actually used to determine the rate of reaction. All right. So which method is most suitable to determine the rate of reaction? We will say that the formation of the sulfur precipitate that will completely cover the X lah. So the experiment is very simple. The experiment is when you see you place a conical flask, okay, and you put it over, and then you put a piece of paper around it, and there's a marking on the paper which states there X. So the sulfur precipitate that is produced will cover up the X eventually. Once it covers up the X completely, you stop the stopwatch, and you see how long it is taking, right? How long the time is taken for this X to disappear, we say. So the best answer here for number 17 should be C lah, right? Determine the production of quantity of sulfur precipitate, which is constant with time. 18, diagram 5 shows the type of traditional ceramic material. What is the major component used in making this ceramic material? So the answer here is very simple also. Okay, you all know that this is actually ceramic, right? Ceramic is usually created from aluminum silicate, all right? Clay and such. So the answer is A. Number 19, the following shows an ionic equation. Based on the equation, which of the following is true? So P from 0 oxidation state become +2. All right, so of course P undergoes oxidation, and then Q from a +2, it becomes 0. So then it undergoes a reduction process. So based on that, you can see properly, right? I think A itself is the only correct answer lah. So we'll say A is correct lah. Okay, why? Because we saw, right, P gains oxidation number. So when P gains oxidation number, it is considered as a oxidation reaction. So the substance is said to be oxidized. Okay, so that's the idea. 20. C4H8 is a molecular formula for isomer M and N. Which of the following statement is true about M and N? So it says here they have a molecular formula of C4H8 for these two particular isomers. So which of the following statement is correct? They're asking you, right, if I were to compare the properties of isomer M and N, which we have the same molecular formula, then which one is the properties that technically both have? Do they have the same physical properties? Do they have the same chemical properties? Same structure, different molecular masses? So I'll say the best answer here is that they should have the same chemical properties. Because why? They are isomers, means they are just molecules with the same formula, but there's different structures, okay? But they have the same functional group. They should have the same type of chemical reaction they can carry out. So therefore, the answer here will be boy. 21, thermochemical equation shows the complete combustion of ethanol. All right, so you got the negative 1,376 kilojoules per mole. Okay, so choose the correct statement for the thermochemical equation. Complete combustion of ethanol does not need oxygen gas. Okay, this is actually wrong. You need oxygen gas. Any combustion reaction requires oxygen gas. There is no such combustion that does not have or does not need oxygen gas. Okay, complete combustion produces carbon dioxide gas only. Wrong. It also has water. So therefore, B is wrong. C, 1376 kilojoules heat is absorbed when 1 mole of ethanol is burned in excess oxygen. All right, is this true or false? It said that this is an exothermic reaction. You see, it is a negative sign. When there's a negative sign and a delta H value, it means that it is an exothermic reaction. So if it is an exothermic reaction, it cannot absorb heat. Instead, it releases the heat. Okay, so therefore, I'll say that the best answer here will be donkey. All right, heat 1,376 kilojoules of heat energy is released when 1 mole of ethanol is burned in excess oxygen. 22. Railroad tracks should be made of hard, strong material to prevent unwanted accidents due to the problems on the tracks. So which combination of materials is more suitable for making a railroad track? So the best answer here, I mean, this is actually an alloy as well, but the best answer here will be iron and carbon, which gives you normal steel. Okay, it gives you steel. So steel is much more stronger compared to its pure metal, and it is cheaper compared to other alloys. So therefore, I will say 22 is donkey. And also, you see, right? the particles, the way they are arranged, right? You can see that the D is actually an odd one out. So that sometimes can indicate that that could be the answer also. But you have to be very careful to see which is which lah. All right, how do we see? In this case, you must remember, right? The smaller the amount of atoms that you see, that means that the particular substance is an additive inside. You add it inside the main metal. The main metal should have more particles than the what's it called, the other foreign atoms inside the structure. Just because they're alloy doesn't mean that most of the metals are gone, right? You still have the main metal. Make sure your main metal is more than the other foreign atoms inside. 23. Figure 6 shows how medicine taken to reduce pain. I think this is most likely called antacid. Antacid is a type of substance or a medication to counter the acid production so that your body won't get gastric pain. Okay, so which of the following is a side effect of this medication? There's a lot of side effects when it comes to taking different types of modern medicine or a Western medicine, we say. Okay, but in this case here, I would say very easy. Visual disturbances and constipation if they get high dose. I don't think that's going to happen. May cause liver damage if excess in dose. Correct. Actually, most drugs will cause a person to have severe problems when they have when they take too much of this modern medicine. Okay, because why? Sometimes this one they can destroy and technically speaking, spoil your internal organs lah, especially the liver because it detoxify all drugs there, and also your kidney sometimes. Okay, because it's kidney the filter of the blood itself. Sorry, the filter of the water. So there's a lot of usage for it. Okay, and I'll say that the second one, the second answer after this technically will be 4. Causes stomach ulcers if they're eaten by children. This is true, right? If they take too much of this medication, but especially by children, they may develop stomach ulcers. So therefore, the best answer here will be 2 and 4. 24, table 1 shows the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons for particles F and G. All right, so number of protons will be 12, number of neutrons is 12, number of electrons is 12. For G, it will be 19, 20, and 18. So which of the following is true about particles F and G? So F is supposed to be a neutral atom, supposedly. Okay. So G itself is not, because G has different number of electrons and protons. Okay? Protons and electrons are not equal. And you can see that it actually has a lesser 1 electron compared to the proton. So G is supposed to be a G positively charged. All right. So, but then still again, you can see that the best answer for number 24 over here is technically A. Why? The mass of one atom F is 24 grams. How do we know it's correct or wrong? By calculating this and this together. Right? To get the mass of an atom, for example, you have to calculate the number of moles, or you can check the relative molecular mass of a substance, and then try to add them together. Okay? So then when you get the values together, then it will be basically the value in grams, which is will be the true measurement of mass for the substance. Mass of 1 mole, I would say. So the answer for for 24 is actually A. 25, determine the pH value of alkaline Q solution that contains hydroxide ions of 0.5 mole per dm cube. So there are two concepts over here. First of all, we have to calculate the pOH of the substance. pOH is basically negative log OH minus. So currently what we have is 0.05 mole of 0.05 mole per dm cube. So if we were to take that log, negative log 0.5, and then we'll see how it goes. So let me just bring my calculator. All right, so if we were to type in negative log 0.5 in your calculator, you will see that the pOH value is supposed to be 0.3 approximately, okay? But what they want is a pH value, not pOH. So now we have to understand that to get pH value, the relationship between pH and pOH is pH plus pOH in total must be 14. So right now we have the 0.3 as your pOH, right? So your pH is basically 14 minus pOH, right? 14 minus pOH, which is technically 14 minus 0.3. So therefore, the answer is 13.7, right? So the pH value of a 0.5 mole per dm cube of an alkaline Q, which contains hydroxide ion, is supposed to be donkey. Okay, 13.7. Okay, you can see here, diagram 7 shows one type of essential vitamin that is needed for our health. What is the relative molecular mass of the vitamin? So relative molecular mass is you add it together over here. So this is supposed to be, I think, 6, right? So 6 times 12 plus 8 times 1 plus 16 times, 16 times 6. Let's see how much that is. All right, so that will be 176 in total. So the answer here will be cat. Okay, so to get the relative molecular mass of a substance, you just add everything together, all the atoms together and their masses. You should be able to get the answer. 27, the diagram A shows the apparatus help to study the reactivity of group 1 elements or the periodic table elements in the reaction with oxygen. Okay, so you can see over here, X burns vigorously, purple flame, Y burns slowly, red flame, Z burns vigorously with yellow flame. So which of the following is the correct descending order of reactivity? Descending order of reactivity means what? Means from highest to the lowest. Highest reactivity to the lowest one. So obviously the one that burns vigorously will be with the purple flame will be the first one. Why? Because you see here, this is supposed to be potassium. Okay, this is supposed to be sodium. Okay, and so on. You understand? So therefore, in this case, in terms of descending order, most reactive, then the least reactive will be X, followed by Z, and then Y. Okay, X, Z, and Y. So the answer is boy. 28, the number of protons of atom R is 19, while the number of protons of atom Q is 8. Atom R reacts with atom Q to form compound Z. So which of the following is a property of compound Z? So again, number of protons of R is 19. So R has an electron configuration of 2881. And then Q is 8. So it's basically 26. So what I can do here is very simple. Since Q over here is 26, right? When R reacts with Q, they actually form an ionic compound. Why? Because you see here, this is a group 1 element. Group 1 element will release one of its electrons out, while Q itself will be the one that accepts 2 electrons in total. But overall, what I want to say here is that they actually form ionic compound. Okay? So what are the properties of ionic compound in this case? I would say the best answer here will be B, or white solid at room conditions. Now, it is not soluble in organic solvent. That's for covalent substances. All right. It doesn't have low melting and boiling point. You have high melting and boiling point. And D can conduct electricity in all states. Is also wrong. Okay. Ionic compounds cannot cannot, how do I say? They cannot conduct electricity. They cannot conduct electricity in a solid state. They can only conduct electricity in molten state or aqueous solution, which means either you melt it down or you dissolve it in water so that the ions can move around to carry electrical charges. So D is not so accurate. So therefore, the answer here will be boy. The following equation represents the reaction between sodium hydroxide solution and dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, so what is the volume of 0.5 mole per dm cube of sulfuric acid needed to neutralize the 25 cm cube of 0.5 mole per dm cube of sodium hydroxide? The first thing to do is to calculate the number of mole first. That's the easiest one. Okay, so the number of mole of sodium hydroxide will be using MV over 1000. Okay. So in this case here, we saw just now, we have 0.5 mole per dm cube of sodium hydroxide and also 25 cm cube. And this is actually (2.5) supposedly. Sorry. 0.5 times 25. 12.5. So 12.5 divided by 1000, not supposedly, yeah. Let's see how much that is. So that'll be that'll be 25 divided by 1000. So answer is supposed to be 0.0125 mole. Okay, so this is the number of mole of sodium hydroxide. Now, what we have is for every 2 mole of this, you get 1 mole of this. All right, for every 2 moles of sodium hydroxide, you need 1 mole of sulfuric acid. So now you got number of moles here. You need half the original amount. So number of mole of sulfuric acid will be 0.0125 divided by 2. So then you get your answer supposed to be too many decimal points. Okay, so the total number of mole here will be 0.00625 times 10. No, not times 10. Let's just calculate the part. Okay, so this is your number of mole for sulfuric acid. So they're asking for volume, right? We know the volume. So supposedly la molarity or concentration is equivalent to number of mole over volume in dm cube. Okay, so it's called mole per dm cube. So right now our goal is to actually use this volume and then we put the number of mole on top followed by its molarity. Okay, so right now we have both information that we need, number of mole and the molarity. The number of mole is here, so the molarity we're not sure. So if you want to calculate the molarity, you need to have volume and the number of mole. So the molarity of this particular acid will be 0.5 mole per dm cube, which is already given to you in this case. Okay, so right now we have number of mole, we have molarity, you can calculate the volume. So we use the second formula. So this one will be 0.00625 divided by the right. Oh, correct. Molarity will be 0.5 mole per dm cube. So therefore, calculate that and see. And answer is 0.0125 dm cube. So that's actually about 11, no, sorry, 1. Times 1000, you get 12.5 cm cube. So the answer here will be A. Okay, for question number 30, Diagram 9 shows the curve Y obtained when 9 grams of granulated zinc reacted with 50 cm cube of 1 mole per decimeter cube of hydrochloric acid. So this is a graph to show you the volume of gas collected over time, a graph of volume of hydrogen gas against time, and they draw two separate lines, two separate curves actually. So there's X and then there's also Y. So which of the following reactions produces curve X? So we see there's two lines over here, right? The X technically has a higher rate of reaction, and the Y actually has a lower rate of reaction. Okay, now why is that so? It's because you can see that the curve of X is actually more steep, okay, steep compared to Y. So the steeper the gradient of the line, the higher the rate of reaction. That's how we know. Okay, so which of the following reactions produces curve X? So it must be something which we can increase the rate of reaction in this case. Okay, but be very careful not to pick the wrong answer in this case, because why? You have to use a method or choose an answer where can only increase the rate of reaction, but you cannot increase the volume of the gas. Because you see, right, both X and Y, regardless of whether they have high or low rate of reaction, they all end up at the same point, meaning the volume of gas collected should be the same before and after. All right. So in this case, now definitely will not be granulated zinc. Okay, because we know that powder will always have a higher rate of reaction compared to granulated zinc. If you don't know what granulated zinc means, granulated means it's like those chunks, or crystals, the one that's slightly bigger than powder. Powder is very fine, but granulated means it's like they're like those sugar they eat from you get from the hotel, the kind you pour into the coffee, then those kind are called granulated sugar. But this case here, definitely powder form will be better compared to granulated zinc, because you want to have an extra higher rate of reaction. Okay, so in this case, very simple. You can see that there is a 1 mole per dm cube versus 2 mole per dm cube. Since they are both 9 grams of substance, so it doesn't matter. The difference here will be one, which is 1 mole per dm cube, and the other one is 2 mole per dm cube. Okay, but I would say the answer here is supposed to be, in this case, that will be A. Okay, so the answer is A is because you see, if you increase the volume of if you increase the concentration of acid, you will get a higher number of mole of hydrogen ions. Okay, in that case, then of course they will also combine together to form hydrogen gas, isn't it? So in this case, the reaction now is that if you were to react zinc with hydrochloric acid, you will get zinc chloride as a salt, but you also produce hydrogen gas. Okay, and if you were to increase the concentration of acid, a higher concentration of acid will result in a higher amount of hydrogen gas, which we don't want now, actually. Okay, what we want to do is now just to increase the rate of reaction, right, to get curve X, but not increase the volume of gas collected. So that's why the best answer here is supposed to be just A by itself. Originally, you see, right, we only have 1 mole per dm cube. So to keep that constant, we have to use back the same concentration. Okay, but this one is double. So we don't want a double. We want the same amount of gas collected. So answer is A. For 31, material shown in diagram 10 above is produced by a type of composite material that is a matrix substance and strengthening substance. So why is this glass why is this glass chose to make that material? So in this case, of course, a motorcycle helmet function is actually to protect the motorcyclist from any kind of major injury, especially the injury to the head and to the brain. So in this case out here, I would say the best answer to describe why this glass is chosen instead of any other types will be that it is actually durable. Okay, you want something to be very durable. Durable means it can last longer and it can sort of like withstand some sort of impact. Okay, and that's the whole point now, of course, right? If you want to make motorcycle helmet, you have to make sure that we have a stronger material so it doesn't break that easily. If it does break that easily, then what's the point of wearing a helmet, isn't it? So it's to protect the wearer's head. So therefore, A is the best answer to describe the use of that particular material. The table 3 shows the arrangement of apparatus and observations for studying the metal displacement experiment from a salt solution. So right now we have XNO3 and a lead strip. So you see over here, the blue color of the solution of XNO3 fades, the lead strip becomes thinner, brown solids are deposited at the base of the test tube. So the first clue that you can get here is blue color. That basically represents copper ions, because we know that only copper ion is blue in color, right? In your, what's it called? Among all the transition elements that you've learned so far. And you see that this is a brown solid also. There's a second hint. Brown color solid indicates that this is actually copper metal that's deposited in the inside. Okay. So which of the following is the oxidation and reduction reactions that occur on a table? Supposedly, right, in this case, the two half equations that lead to this reaction is that, first of all, you must understand it's a displacement reaction, okay? The reason why the lead strip becomes thinner is because lead, when you put it inside a solution of, in this case, copper 2 nitrate, then it will displace copper from its own salt to produce lead nitrate instead, and copper is deposited. So what you can see over here is that lead has displaced copper out from its own salt. Copper is then left alone. This is the brown color deposit, supposedly. Okay, so now what happens is that because lead has displaced copper, you can see that lead originally has a oxidation state of 0, and after that it has a +2 oxidation state. So therefore we'll say that lead has been oxidized. Okay, so for the oxidation part, it will be this one. Lead forms lead ions and it releases 2 electrons. And on the other hand, the other one we see over here is actually copper. The reduction process is when you see this now, I'll show you. Copper, Cu2 plus, technically becomes copper. Okay, so in this case over here, Cu2 plus becomes 0, right? From a +2, it becomes a 0. So this is a reduction process. In order for it to become 0, very easy, it has to accept electrons. So first one is lead becomes lead ion and it releases 2 electrons. And then after that, what happens is that the electrons go to the copper ion. The copper ion receives the 2 electrons to become copper. So the best answer here will be C. When 9.2 grams of ethanol burns completely in excess, oxygen, carbon dioxide gas, and water are produced. Calculate the volume of carbon dioxide gas released. So let's write the equation first, very easy. So this will be C2H5OH plus oxygen. You get 2 moles of carbon dioxide and H2O. So just to balance it up, we have 3 over here. And then let's see, we have a total of 2 plus another 2, so 4 in total. No, sorry, we have 4 oxygen over here, and we have 3. So this is 4 oxygen, this is 3 oxygen. So we have 1 over here already, so therefore this must be 6 left. So this is 3. Okay. Okay. So this is the balanced chemical equation to show you. Okay, now they want you to find out and see how much carbon dioxide gas is released if 9.2 grams, right? If 9.2 grams of ethanol is burned. So let's see the number of mole of ethanol. So the first thing to do is to calculate the RMM of ethanol, or the molar mass technically. So in this case over here, it should be, let's see, 24 plus 6 plus 16. Let's see how much that is. 24 plus 6 plus 16, that will give you around 46 in total. So the molar mass of ethanol is 46 grams per mole. And then just double confirm is calculated again. Yep, 46, okay. So right now we have 9.2 grams divided by 46. So you have a 0.2 mole of ethanol. All right, now you can see, right, for every 1 mole of ethanol, you can actually get 2 moles of carbon dioxide in terms of ratio. So it's 1 to 2 ratio. So therefore, the number of mole of carbon dioxide produced will be 0.2 multiplied by 2. So the number of mole of ethanol produced will be 0.4 mole. Now we're going to calculate the volume of CO2 based on the room temperature and pressure. So the volume of CO2 produced will be 0.4 multiplied by 24 decimeter cube. So that will be 9.6 decimeter cube. So the answer here should be bar. Right, 34. The reaction between 25 cm cube of hydrochloric acid and 25 cm cube of sodium hydroxide solution releases the heat of 2,100 joules. What's the temperature change of the mixture? So right now we have is Q is equivalent to MC theta. All right. And then we have Q already. It says here it releases the heat of 2,100 joules. Is that it? No, actually this is heat release. Heat release means it's delta H, sorry. So delta H is supposed to be 2,100 joules. Okay. Okay, all right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to trace it back to theta, okay? So the first thing to do is to calculate number of moles stuff, because right now, right, delta H is equivalent to Q over N. We're trying to find Q first. So Q is equivalent to delta H multiplied by N. So your N will be based on the solution that you use. So in this case here, it will be 25 cm cube. So I think this one, they didn't ask you for delta H because they didn't give you a number of moles. Right? You can see here, the reaction between 25 cm cube and 25 cm cube, but they didn't say the molarity. So I think most likely what it's trying to do here is, yeah, like I said just now, they're trying to get your Q only, so no delta H. So supposedly Q is 2,100 joules. So then you just find theta, very easy. So theta will be Q divided by MC. So M will be 25 plus 25. Because the acid and the base jumbo together, you get like 50 cm cube. All right, so then your total M will be 50. And then your C will be this one. All right, and then your Q will be 2,100 lah. So just substitute all the value in. You have 2,100 divided by 50 multiplied by 4.2. Let's see how much that is. 50 divided by 2.4. Sorry, 50 divided by 50 multiplied by 4.2. Then you got 210. So that will be 2,100 divided by 210. So then after that, you have 10. So therefore, the temperature change will be 10 degrees Celsius. Because usually we say heat release will be based on delta H. That's why I got a bit confused just now. I think they're supposed to say heat change instead, not heat release. But it's okay, right? They already mentioned that already. But so we follow back because I realized that something was wrong just now. It was not in mole per dm cube. There's no concentration given, so most likely it is not needed. So if you want to calculate delta H, you will need that molarity, but they didn't give you, so most likely it's Q lah. All right, I would say. But usually in your exam, they will just say for Q, they will say heat change. Okay. Usually heat release basically means heat of neutralization, but I don't know why you didn't put it in. So just watch out for this term, just in case. That's Q. Right, 35. Green Eagle Farm is a rubber plantation that exports latex in liquid form abroad. What instructions must the farm manager give to tappers to keep the latex in such condition? So in order for you to keep the latex in a liquid form, right? Liquid form basically means it has to be in, it must not coagulate lah. So we know that if you add a little bit of alkaline solution inside, it will not coagulate the latex. If you add acid inside, it will definitely coagulate, okay? So I would say here, add a bit of ammonia solution, that's the answer, in the latex bowl so that the alkaline substance here will prevent the coagulation of latex and then remain in a liquid form. Okay, so 35, the answer is C. All right, this is crisis pencemaran toxic Sungai Kim Kim. All right, very famous incident back in 2019, where almost more than 100 schools were shut down. If you follow the news, okay, and the river was black in color because of toxic chemicals being poured inside. The 11 above shows a situation that was happened in Johor in year 2019. As a biochemist that involved in waste and wastewater management, what is the most suitable green tech method to use to overcome this situation from happening again? I think here they actually ask you based on your general knowledge, okay? So I would say the best solution, if you're asking me, the best solution here will be, because you are using a biological approach. They say as a biochemist means you're supposed to use a biological approach. And among all these answers, right, you'll notice there's only one which actually has that biological approach, which is to use the bacteria to decompose that dangerous chemicals. Do you see that? So look out for hints like that, because they will ask you as a biochemist, as a chemist, there's a lot of hints there. Since the word bio exists, means you have to use technically anything that's bio-based. So the best answer here will be C, uses bacteria to compose, actually to decompose. All right, to decompose. Menguraikan is actually decompose. Another typo from Terengganu paper. Not sure if it's on purpose or you're just not so good in language form. But it's okay lah. You understand that menguraikan is basically decomposition. All right. So C is the best answer. 37, diagram 12 shows the process of photosynthesis for a coconut tree. Then we have the sun shining towards the tree, and then we have that carbon dioxide gas being absorbed by the plants for photosynthesis. Roots are absorbing the water, and after that, glucose is produced because of the photosynthesis, and plants also do give up oxygen gas at the same time. Okay, so what is the volume of oxygen gas produced if 1.3 decimeter cube of carbon dioxide gas is used? So I would say that supposedly you have to remember the, what's it called? The equation for photosynthesis. Okay, so let's see the equation of photosynthesis. This is a bit of bio. Okay, usually they will give you the, what's it called? The equation, but they didn't give you. So the equation is very simple. You have like 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O. And then you get technically C6 H12O6 plus 6 O2. Okay. So in this case here, what you notice is that they're asking you how much oxygen is produced if you have 1.3 dm cube of carbon dioxide. But then, of course, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. You see, for every 6 moles of CO2, you get 6 moles of O2. So it's basically 1-to-1 ratio. So let's see how many moles of carbon dioxide is present in 1.3 dm cube. So number of mole of CO2 will be 1.3 dm cube divided by 24. So that will give you around 0.05 moles in total, approximately. Yeah, we run it off to the nearest number. And after that, since it's a 1-to-1 ratio, I would say that the volume of gas produced should be the same, I guess. So if you were to multiply back by molar volume, supposedly it's the same, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So for every 0.05 mole of CO2, you should be able to get 0.05 mole of oxygen. So you'll come back to the same conclusion that it's actually 1.3 dm cube. So since it's a 1-to-1 ratio, the answer is B. No need to calculate also actually, if you see properly, it's just, I don't know why I calculated also, because it's a 1-to-1 ratio. You should get back the same volume actually. But it's okay, okay, at least we can prove that this is 1.3 dm cube. 38, I don't know what is that, but I think it's a broken arm and there's a cast over here, we see properly. And then it's stating the substance to make the cast. So in this case, diagram 13 shows a picture of a hand. Mr. Zamri's son, after get the treatment, when injured during he played futsal with his, I'm sorry for laughing. I cannot. But it's okay, it's okay. Maybe it's just, yeah, okay. Diagram 13 shows the picture of a hand of Mr. Zamri's son after he got, after he received the treatment during when he was injured during an injury. What did I say? I'm confused. Okay, never mind. Okay, what happened here is Mr. Zamri's son, okay, somehow injured his hands while playing futsal with his friend. So he went to get treatment. And then finally, the doctor basically covered his head by this particular substance X. There you go. Okay, that's better. All right, substance X is formed when calcium nitrate reacts with sodium sulfate. Calculate the mass of substance X when 25 cm cube of 0.5 mole per dm cube of sodium sulfate reacts with calcium nitrate. Okay, so let's take a look at this. But then, of course, if you think about it, the Malay one is correct, right? You think about it, it's like, for example, Raja 13 menunjukkan keadaan, not keadaan. Even the Malay one has a typo. Right? Keadaan tangan anak Encik Zamri setelah mendapatkan rawatan di hospital selepas mengalami kemalangan sewaktu bermain futsal bersama rakan-rakannya. So okay lah, correct lah. I think the translation may be a bit off lah. Okay, but okay lah, you understand what I mean lah, okay? No, I was just curious if the BM part was correct or wrong, but it's okay. Right, anyway, back to this question. Substance X is formed when calcium nitrate reacts with sodium sulfate. Calculate the mass of substance X when 25 cm cube of 0.5 mole per dm cube of sodium sulfate reacts with calcium nitrate. So anyway, all right, so the equation is very simple. It's basically calcium nitrate reacting with sodium sulfate. So supposedly you'll get an insoluble salt of calcium sulfate and you'll get 2 moles of sodium nitrate. So in this case here, very simple. What it's trying to tell you is that if you were to use 25 cm cube of 0.5 mole per dm cube of sodium sulfate, what is the mass of the substance X produced, which is this one over here? It's a 1-to-1 ratio. We see properly, right? 1-to-1 ratio. So in this case right now, number of mole of Na2SO4 will be MV over 1000. So that's 0.5 times 25 divided by 1000 divided by 1000. So you get 0.0125 mole. Okay, so it's a 1-to-1 ratio, means of course the number of mole of calcium sulfate used will technically be also, right, 0.0125 mole. All right, so right now they want you to find out the mass of it. So you must calculate the molar mass first. So molar mass of calcium sulfate will be, let's calculate that in C. So it's technically 64 plus 40 plus 32. So 136 grams per mole. So therefore, mass of X produced will be 0.0125 multiplied by 136. So your answer here will be 1.7 grams. Therefore, the answer is 1. Okay? All right, the point here is to get the correct answer. Okay, it doesn't matter the question sounds weird or not. All right, 39, diagram 14 shows the coagulation of latex. So based on the statement, give which reason, like supposed to explain which reason actually show you this particular result, or which reason explain the situation. So if you read everything correctly, it's supposed to be the acidic substance will cause the latex to coagulate, okay? For example, the second scenario over here shows you that if you add some acid, the latex coagulate. If you don't add anything to the latex to coagulate also, it will coagulate eventually. Why? Because there's bacteria in the air. So bacteria in the air can actually contaminate the latex and cause the production of acid. The acid which produced by the bacteria can actually coagulate the latex naturally, even if you don't add the acid inside. So I'll say the best answer to describe this particular situation is actually A, okay? Where it explains that coagulation of latex naturally is due to secretion of lactic acid in a very small quantity by the bacteria to cause the coagulation of the latex to take over. And then after that, you can see here, of course, it's very slow compared to an acid that you add by yourself, but eventually the bacteria can actually produce enough lactic acid to coagulate the latex. So A is the one that can actually explain the process of natural coagulation. And the last question here, number 40, the table 4 shows the information available on 3 types of food labels, P, Q, and R, which are food additives. So you can see here, first one is pineapple and syrup, second one is tomato sauce, and then the last one will be vanilla ice cream. And they show you the various ingredients. And then the properties of additives is that for the pineapple in the syrup, it's a sweet and traditionally produced from natural sources. So I think most likely that's sugar. Okay, because it says natural source and it's sweet. Most likely it's just sugar like glucose or sucrose or any kind of natural sugar. Tomato sauce, you can see here, tasty and durable. That's the properties of the food additives. Tasty and durable. So if you want to put, normally you put like sodium benzoate or something like that to add to sauce. So I want to put here sodium benzoate first. Bear in mind that you can actually use other things as well. And then vanilla ice cream, flavored and soft. Flavored and soft. Okay. Probably can't tell. Well, let me see what's the rest. So state the names of the food additives of P, Q, and R. So sugar, like I said, it's not activated sugar. You can actually add, aspartame cannot be, sorbitol cannot. These two are technically, what's it called? They are technically artificial sources. Aspartame and sorbitol are artificial synthetic source of sweetening agent. So therefore A and B is out. Now it's left sugar. So I would say here, both sugar and stevia are natural sources. Stevia comes from the stevia plant, which is actually a type of natural sweetener. So it's actually from plants. So it can be sugar, it can also be stevia. All right, but what about the other type? So it must either be sodium nitrite or benzoic acid. Now, sodium nitrite is normally used in meat. Right, they're used in meat, not in sauce. Sauce, we use benzoic acid or sodium benzoate. So therefore, I would say that's wrong also. Now, ascorbic acid cannot be answered as well, because why? Ascorbic acid function is actually to prevent oxidation. So nothing to do with tastiness and also durability. Okay, so of course, most likely the answer is C already. And R, you can see here, acacia gum is actually used as a usually as an additive to, not to add flavor, but to make it soft in a way. All right, but I don't know why is it flavored. I've actually not tasted acacia gum before, but maybe because it's in the food, normally you can taste it by itself, I guess. I don't know. So therefore, the answer is C. Okay. So remember, you can see here, right? Sweet and natural sauce. So it can be sugar, most likely. And for sauce, you either add benzoic acid or the sodium benzoate, never sodium nitrite or the ascorbic acid, because sodium nitrite is a type of preservative to prevent the growth of microorganisms for meat products, and ascorbic acid's function is actually to use as a antioxidant to prevent oil from being rancid and things like that. Okay, all right. So therefore, the answer is C. So that's pretty much it for this Terengganu paper 1. The next one that we're going to discuss will be Terengganu paper 2. So stay tuned for that video. So I guess that's all from me from today. I'll see you guys in the next video.